next slide and let you folks talk a little bit about NCA training and development, if you like.
I'll let you go ahead and do that, Pui.
Okay, so you want to start now?
Yeah, let's go ahead and just kind of, before we get, I mean, we can start at the top of the hour, but if you want to talk about NCA training, give yourself a little of a commercial there.
Okay, I plan to do that in the end, but I can do it now.
Okay, do it at the end, do it at the beginning, yeah.
Yeah, so this training is sponsored by the NCA Training and Development Division. We are quite a cool division under NCA. You know, we have a mix of scholars and practitioners. This is probably the only or one of a few divisions at NCA that has this great mix together. Our goal is to, so we focus on, of course, communication training and development, applied communication, organizational communication. But the key idea is how you transfer the theories, communication theories, into practice. So that's pretty much who we are and what we do. And we are organizing this webinar series as part of our professional development program for our members. We also open it to everyone interested in communication training and development to take advantage of this program. How long do you want me to go?
I mean, yeah, that's why I put up this website too, if you want to talk a little bit about this, because this is recently launched, right?
This website, it has been up for quite some time. Actually, we are redesigning our website. Craig is actually doing a great job on that. What you see on the screen now is our current website, but we're moving to another platform which will allow us to do much more, like having our webinar on the website and other cool features there. We should hopefully have the new site up and running later this year. But for now, if you want more information, if you're interested in information about us, you can go to ncatraininganddevelopment.com, as you can see on the screen. You can also join us on Facebook. It's facebook.com/groups/NCATD. You can also subscribe to our newsletter. I have like a couple of slides in the back, and I can talk about those later.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we're at the top of the hour, so if you want to go ahead, we can go ahead and get started with the webinar. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and move to the next slide. So this is me. I'm Dr. William Brantley, and you can see my little resume there and such, and just kind of give you an idea here. I started off at the University of Louisville in Kentucky, and then I moved to D.C., so I teach at the University of Maryland. I just finished teaching up at the University of Maryland. This is my first semester not teaching for them. But I still teach at the University of Louisville. I've been teaching there since 2000. And I guess my home base is in the communication department. So that's my night job. And my day job, I work at the Patent and Trademark Office here in Alexandria, Virginia, although I live in College Park, Maryland. And I am in the academic world, in the practitioner world. I do training during the day. I work for the Enterprise Training Division. And we do leadership development, career development for all 13,000 plus employees here at the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. So that's a lot of work. We just finished doing a leadership forum for over 1,000 managers. And that was 4 days of constantly running around and making sure we had 100 sessions running and such. So I've been in training and education for, and I kind of pause here because it really hits you when you think about this, over 18 years. So I've been doing this for a while. And one reason why I was talking about, was really attracted to this topic is that when I first started teaching, I started work, I was kind of coming around when the internet was really taking off. Online education was taking off. So I really got interested in the new technologies and always try to incorporate those in my classroom teachings and then on my online learning. So real quick here, Bo, I want to make this an interactive webinar, and I want to make sure that I show you how to make this interactive. We're going to have a little discussion question. So right now we just have the chat on the left-hand side. So I see some folks know how to get to the chat. And what I'd like to do is get your opinions on what is so unique about the online learning environment. You know, if you've been, like I have, you've been in the classroom, and then you've been in the online environment, and sometimes now I do a flipped classroom, which is blended, where I do some online and I do some in-class work. What's so unique about the online learning environment? What are some things that stand out to you? I'm going to give you a second here to just type those in. And we got one from Craig. Better analytics of learner performance. Can track learning better. Flexibility. You can study from anywhere. Yes. I'm also a learner too. I got my PhD online and through short residencies. One of the things in government, I want to become a chief learning officer. I need to go back and get my master's in education. So I'm actually doing that online through Colorado State University. It's kind of funny. I've probably been in more universities online across the country than I've actually traveled. So able to travel. Ability for learners to revisit content, web-based lessons. Like that a lot. So that's a really good point there. So I think you can see what we were talking about here. Flexibility allows people to kind of customize how they're going to be how they're learning, and kind of makes it work more for them. Because, you know, with the classroom, we have a certain time you have to be there, you have to show up, and you have to travel to it. Here it can be a little bit more different. Although we'll be talking about the two where you have asynchronous and synchronous. So we have ones where I have recorded lectures, and then we have one where we actually have a meeting time, we meet online. And I like this. Can be challenging to gauge intention. Yes. And I'm going to talk about ways to help you work with that. Because there's a very big thing about, you know, with online learning, and not only with students, but also with my adult learners. I know I have several that just turn me on, turn my camera on, turn on my lecture, and then they're off working on their email or shopping online, and I wouldn't even know it, you know. So can do competency-based learning, loss of personalized attention. So a lot of good stuff there, and I like that with the loss of personalized attention. There's ways to work with that, and I'll show you some techniques. So have 3 learning objectives today, and I know some of you are going to quibble, well, that's not really written in the learning objective style, but I was trying to think about how to best present this for you. So I want to talk about 3 what I would call meta strategies for teaching online, whether you're doing it in a recorded presentation or you're doing a live presentation, one where, you know, the students and you are at the same time online. So I want to show you some different strategies for that. But let me just jump right into the 3 strategies for teaching online, whether it's a recorded presentation or you're delivering a live presentation. And another thing to kind of give me some feedback, if I'm going too fast or I'm going too slow, or you need me to go over a point, please yell about that in the chat. Just drop in a note there, okay? So the first thing I want to talk about is 3 strategies for teaching online. And I call these my meta strategies. And you may have seen these before. And the big one for me is the whole idea behind cognitive load theory. Honestly, I remember when I was a very young and fresh, you know, college professor, just kind of got started. I was adjunct faculty, my first class, had a great professor friend of mine there with me. And I was just excited, and I was, you know, in the classroom teaching as much as I could. And after the first day, my friend brought me aside and said, you know, Bill, you're full of it. And I said, oh my God, what does that mean, full of it? And he said, you're just too full of content. And the thing is that in that class, you were essentially assaulting the students with your content. You had so much you wanted to tell them, and you had 50 minutes, and you were just overwhelming these students. And these were freshmen, introductory speech communication course, just how to put together a decent speech and speak. And I was basically, as he said, was trying to give them half of a communication theory textbook in 50 minutes. So one of the biggest things I learned to do was something called cognitive load theory. And I'll be referencing some good articles about this. But I tell you, one of the experts in the field, and she's great for adult learners, and it also works for students, is Ruth Coven Clark. Ruth, R-U-T-H, Coven, C-O-L-V-I-N, Clark, C-L-A-R-K. She's written several books about the whole idea behind cognitive load theory and doing it in your instruction. So just to give you kind of the breakdown how this works, You know that we have the working memory. Now we have sensory memory, which is where all this information is coming in on the eyes and the ears. And it goes through our working memory, which if you remember, it's kind of like, I don't know, I know people don't do this anymore, but I remember when I was growing up, we used to memorize phone numbers. And remember how phone numbers are 7 digits or less, and that's because Bell Labs basically determined that people can't remember more than 7 digits at a time, or when you used to have to write down a phone number, you just keep repeating it to yourself till you wrote it down. So you got a working memory, which is kind of a very narrow funnel for you, and then it goes into your long-term memory, which is you can hold almost unlimited information, and you build mental models out of that. So my whole thing when I'm working with my presentations is cognitive load theory, thinking about, okay, I got this information, how can I best package this to get through that narrow straw, if you think about like a water hose and all this, a narrow straw of the working memory, and get into the people's long-term memory. And this is even more important when you do online presentations, because you can really overwhelm people with the information you're giving them or the visuals you have. I mean, just looking at my screen right now, on the left-hand side, I'm kind of keeping half an eye on the chat to see if there's anything happening there while I'm talking to you about this. So we can get to the point where I can overload myself cognitively. So one of the things I tell folks, when you're doing online, whether you record it or you're doing it live, how much content are you throwing at people, and start ruthlessly cutting until you get to what you need to really tell folks in those 50 minutes. Because I know as academics and as practitioners, we can really get excited about our subjects and overwhelm people with information. I have a subject matter expert. She's amazing. She works in our Office of Disability. She is one of the best government gurus on reasonable accommodations. But once you get her started, you're going to hear everything she ever thought about reasonable accommodation. And with her training, sometimes I say, look, I just need you for 15 minutes. Can you give us a good overview? That 15 minutes almost starts to turn into an hour. So think about the cognitive load that you're doing with your presentations, because not all, it's less content but more understanding is what I try to balance. Now the second one here is talking about attention spans. And of course we know in the classroom we have these things with attention spans, and we really know when students aren't paying attention. But right now I can't tell if anyone is paying attention or not, other than sometimes I can see things pop up in the chat. So we think about, okay, how can I keep people attention span, and how can I gauge that? And one of the things I know we also have some, and I brought this article here because I thought it was interesting, is when you're developing your presentations, you have to think about how long can people do focus concentration. So we know this is like this in the classroom, but what about in online environments, okay? So I've actually was looking out there, do people have less of an attention span in the online environment than they do in the in-classroom? Really couldn't find research on that, but I did find some interesting stuff about attention span generally. And you know how some people have, and we have some training myths out there, that people have the attention span of goldfish, or it's 8 seconds, 10 minutes, or whatever. Bradbury did some interesting research on this and found really it's how well you present the information, the teacher presenting the information, and how they structure it that really determines the attention span. And that makes a lot of sense, because if I'm boring you folks right now, and if I'm boring you, just tell me in the chat, you can just start tuning out. And this happens a lot with my people in my webinars here. I can see folks, they see their email over there. They see their instant messaging pop up. They're starting to look at their phone. And they do this too in the classroom. I mean, we've all seen this. As I like to joke, sometimes I see more of our male coworkers' bald spots than I've actually seen their faces, because their heads are hunched down over the phone. So when you're building your presentations, you want to do things where you can have some pauses here and some stuff here to help rejigger the attention. In other words, trying to refresh that. So I don't know if you've ever read this book. When I read this book, and I think it came out in 2007, I'm not sure, John Medina's Brain Rules, a wonderful book, and he has 12 brain rules, and I love how this is all kind of on the neuroscience at the time, and it's held up for a long time. And I have 4 of them right here, And one of the things I'm going to do is not read this to you. I want you to read this to yourself. Who was the author again? John Medina, M-E-D-I-N-A. And I think Craig can pop that in for us if he doesn't mind. I have 4 of his brain rules here. And I want to turn this over to you guys because I'm going to refresh our 10 minutes here. And I want you to tell me, when you read these, which ones resonate with you? Which brain rule most resonates with you? When you've seen online presentations, which one do you think really works better for you? So I'm going to give you about a minute here. Okay, vision, attention, excellent. Exploration, sensory integration, vision, attention, excellent. Curious how sensory works online. That's a great question here. How do all our senses work online if I can't taste or smell, and I can't touch, but I can see and I can hear? Exploration and attention. Yeah. So the reason I bring these up here is that when you're looking at your presentations online, and can I talk a little bit more about exploration? I will actually jump into that because I really love that topic. One of the things with these 4 rules I like about them, of course, is the first one. We don't pay attention to boring things. So it doesn't mean you have to have things exploding and flying everywhere, but you want to have some visually interesting things, some stuff for the eyes to see. And if you notice on my slides, and I'm really kind of pushing my limit here on how much text I want to have on the slides, but I put a lot, some visuals on here, like his face smiling, because that gets your brain activated and it gets your vision going, and then I can speak to it. So that's why I refuse to read the slide. If I start reading the slide, I'd be essentially not integrating the senses. I'd be shutting down the visual and turning into a sound, into the sound sense. And then exploration. I'm from the school of social constructivism, and one of the things about online learning and such is that I like to have the students come in and work with me and learn together. So you may have heard the term guide on the side instead of the sage on the stage. I do the same thing with training, even in-person training. I have folks come in and we kind of explore the topic. So I'll give them an idea here of what I want to look at, but then we both look at that, or the students and I look at this and explore the topic together. And you can actually recreate that and record it online presentations. I've been able to do that. So those are my 3 big meta rules. Basically the idea of looking at the cognitive load, and then on the attention span, think about how am I mixing up things so I don't keep, pacing on one thing or another. And then looking at the brain rules. How do I get the attention? How do I integrate your senses? Because right now with the online environment, I only have visual and auditory. I don't have the other one, so I got to really rely a lot on those. But I can invoke the other senses. I can put a picture of garlic on here and kind of have people think about garlic and how it smells. And with the exploration is, instead of me just a straight information transfer, I have you come in and help me discover the information. So also another thing I like to do with my online is, before I jump to a new one, is kind of do a quick pulse check. How's everyone doing so far? Give me a Y if it's good, or no, we need some questions or something like that. Just give me why good, perfect. That's kind of that's my attempt at a thumbs up with the Y. Okay, wonderful. So now when I got a lot of questions beforehand, and thank you so much for sending in your questions. This helps me really put together a presentation that works for you. And that's an important topic, and that's an important thing to do. I wanted to make sure, I saw there was the split. How do I create a good recorded presentation? Because I record my lectures. And then how do you do a good live one? So I divided this up into recorded and live. So I'm going to ask you a real quick question, and you can answer this in the chat if you want to, or you can just think to yourself. How many of you have watched YouTube and you see some good YouTube videos out there, and what are some characteristics of what makes a good YouTube video? Because our students and our adult learners too are watching them. I get enough colleagues that send me, hey, watch this video. Right. functional, relevant, so short, fun. Even the educational ones can be fun. Neil deGrasse Tyson's are great. Helps us demonstrate communication concepts, voice quality. Right, broken up between talking head and action illustration. Short and sweet. Quality visual and audio. That's an interesting topic there. We'll actually talk about that. To the point, easy to follow. So, yeah, short, conversational, active learning. One of the things I watch, at my church, I'll watch the young, we have a lot of young girls there, and they love watching these YouTube channels of young girls showing how to do this, how to draw, how to cook something or whatever. And you get that kind of, it's short and it's to the point, it's conversational, there's cleverness about it, but there's a good mix of talking head, as you would say, and actually doing something. So it's like, here's how you learn to do something, now you try. So when I was doing my stuff with my videos, and I do a lot of recorded videos, especially for my web class, I do screen recordings of me putting together web pages, and I do screen recordings of concepts behind the communication concepts, and I also do screen recordings for my political communication class, where I talk about the political communication theory. I like to use these three elements, and if you take a look at the bottom here with the yellow, and that's how you can use your color to make sure that pops out for you, a great article about effective educational videos, some great principles and guidelines here. And CB, I think it's Center for Biological or Cell Biology, something, life science, but easily Google that. And I'm going to take this apart because you have three parts of this here. And the first one is the cognitive theory of multimedia learning. That's an actual theory out there. Ruth Coven Clark talks about that also. And there's three major components. There's the idea of signaling, okay? So in here, you notice I've used all kinds of cues to help signal. I use that road motif. I'm using signposting. I'm using my titles. I'm signaling to you, what are we going to talk about next? What are we going to go next? And how does this all fit in? That's very important. Take a look at my slide here on the right. Okay? Design for social change. I'm going to ask you a question. Is this a good slide? You can say yes or no, Y or N. Is this a good slide? Do you understand? Hell no. Do you understand? Yeah, it's a lot of info. And here's the big problem here. It makes a mistake. Where does it signal? What am I supposed to know? Design for social change. I've actually seen, and they're making a joke out of it, I've seen the website where they pull this from, and they're talking about how do you design products for social change. But you see all the problems here, right? You got a hot dog, and you got a rabbit, and you got some amazing jargon here, some stuff I've probably seen in some of the policies that we just put out. Design for social change. What does this mean? Yeah, hot dog and a rabbit. So what am I signaling? How am I building this? How does this work? So with cognitive load theory of multimedia learning, I've overloaded you because your brain is sitting here thinking, what does this mean? What does this all say? And if you read those 3 points, honestly, I don't know what any of this says. I don't know what this means. And I had economic classes. So part of this is with the signaling is, what do you want me to know and how do I need to know this? How do you put this together? There's the idea of weeding. Someone should have gone through here and taken out the dog and the rabbit. And I see this a lot of times with some of my colleagues where they have all kinds of great things in their PowerPoints, and a lot of it needs to be weeded out. And Ruth Coven Clark talks about this, that the idea of simple diagrams are best, simple animations are best. You can overwhelm people, especially in the online environment, with a lot of complicated stuff. So one of the things I do is if I have a complex topic, let's say in web development, how to build style sheets, I make sure to take it apart and make it very simple and weed out all the details until I can get to a point where I can bring in the details one by one. Matching modalities. Okay, looking at this again. Let's ignore the rabbit and the hot dog. There's some stuff here with a lot of text, and there's some pictures, and I'm not sure how the chart works with the picture. And when we talk about the modalities, we have visual and we have auditory online. So how do I use the auditory best to introduce that information and the visual? So if you've ever read a book called Beyond Bullet Points, we talk a lot about with PowerPoint using the visuals, that modality, to help get information in that's kind of like the chart here, visually based so people can understand it, and using the auditory to help back that up. How's this doing for you guys so far? Is it making sense? Yes or no? Why are in? Good, good. I hope it's useful too. So the second part in this article, which I really like a lot, is how do we keep our students engaged? And we talked a lot about this. Keeping it short. Now, how short? You know, and I get people say, well, it should be 3 minutes to 4 minutes. Again, attention span is variable. I mean, it depends on the topic. If it's a complex topic you need to break up, you might want to keep it short, keep it to, you know, with some of my videos, in my, let's say my web development or my communication technology, I'll have videos 2 to 3 minutes because I've got a very complex topic that builds upon itself, and I want to give people time to take a minute or so, learn the concept, and let them reflect on it, and then we can go to the next one. One of the things I find, and I don't have research to back this up, it's just one of my feelings about this, that when we do a lot of videos and such, we don't give students enough reflection time in the online environment. Not everything we have to do has to be filled with sound and visuals all the time. If you notice, I've given you all some pauses here. And the idea is let people kind of reflect and put that learning in and kind of think about that learning. Another thing is conversational style. One of the things the students like about my videos and such is I kind of leave in the errors, I leave in the mistakes, not too badly, but I'll leave in stuff. And I sound like I'm speaking to them. If you take a look at a lot of the videos on YouTube, some are very polished, but some are not that polished. It feels like real people are talking to you, or there's a little roughness around the edge. People are used to that now. They're used to people whipping out their cameras and not being perfect in filming something, but that kind of live immediacy. And the students themselves do that. Now, one of the biggest things, and this is not only for college students, it's for my working professionals, customized. I can't tell you, during the day I work with so many vendors and I get canned topics, and then I go home and I get from my textbook folks canned topics and canned videos that just seem very generic. So a lot of times I'll take snippets of videos and I'll put some personalization in it so that I'm talking to the person. And that just makes sense. I mean, how many of you all, when you see something, you want something that's more to you rather than we're just broadcasting it to everyone? So that's another way, another 3 sets here about keeping students engaged. Keep it short to one point. Don't try to overwhelm them, get the cognitive load. Keep it conversational and make it personalized for them, customize. Now, the final 3 points here is with the recorded lectures is the active learning. You want to put the students in control. And that's really easy when it's recorded. One of the things people like about my web lessons is that they can pause me, they can repeat me, they can speed me up. They can control how they're receiving the stuff, okay? And that's kind of a different world for them when you get online. But with the recording, that's one big advantage you have, the control. And some of you all brought that out. Now, this is kind of strange for you, and this, you know, some people talk about this. How can I have interactive questions and guiding questions in a recorded lecture? Well, of course, you can record quizzes you had before. You can also do, and I'll talk about this in the next slide, kind of the over-shoulder questions. So I'll say to them, so now you've done this, what else do you think you could do with this? And then give like about 5 seconds, let them kind of think about it, and say, well, some students have done this kind of thing. And then you can do this as part of the, not to have the videos as standalones, but have them as part of larger assignments. So like with my political communication videos, I teach them political communication topics, but I say, now, after you've seen this video, let's go take a look at some campaign commercials and then apply some of those concepts you've seen with the communication strategies to this. So it gets them out of the video and have them actually go look for other videos on YouTube, some campaign commercials, and learn how to apply those topics. So that's, and I really like this article a lot, and I think this is really a good way of using these videos for tools, as educational tools. So there's some of the theory behind it. Let me give you some practical steps I picked up over the years. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about my background very quickly. I started off in college radio when I was a freshman at Eastern Kentucky University. I'm very much from Kentucky. And I started off in radio broadcasting and such, so I have a radio background. So I'm very familiar, I'm very comfortable in that environment. And these are some practical steps that I picked up over the years and helped me do these recordings and helping making the lectures work well. So one big thing is more conversational, less polished, although you can practice, but one of the things I tell people is to go ahead and be a little bit more impromptu. You can have your points on an index card. They won't see that, but you can at least work with that. Don't try to read out the speech. It just doesn't really work too well in some of the recordings unless you're very good at reading. Tell a story, keep them in suspense. You know, I've told you a few stories here and there, not too much suspense there, but some stories here to work with the topics. So when I do my political communication, I always like to start off each video with a story, and there's all kinds of great stories in politics that help illustrate your points. Get it short to the point. One of my favorite comments I received from a student is said, it sounds like when I do my recordings, I'm over their shoulder. And I want to give that impression like I'm looking at the student while they're working on their paper, while they're working on their web page, and I'm saying, now, you may want to do it this way, but some students have found another way to do this. So it's kind of like trying to anticipate and answer questions they might have. And the biggest thing is keep it simple. Instead of doing one huge set of videos, break them up. So like 3 to 4 or 5, whatever works for you, what's the topic, and have a sequence of them so that you can have that reflection time in between. So I want to, before we get moving, how we feel right now. Was this part useful? How many of you actually use recorded lectures and recorded presentations? Doesn't have to be with the students, but also with your adult learners. Okay. Anyone? Okay. Idea, a great way to customize videos is to use PlayPost. Yes, that's a great tool. And we'll talk about some of those. Very good. I use recorded videos. Yeah, and there's a mix too. I really like to use recorded and also like to use live. It's kind of a nice mix there. So people say, well, when should you use recorded versus live? Well, with recorded, if I got some topics that are complex and I want to kind of do more of I need to get you to know this information first before we can actually discuss it, I'll use the recorded so that can also introduce some visuals and help progressively build it up. So it's sort of like I need to give you some information now, and I don't want to call it an information dump, but I need to give you some information, some context before we can actually start discussing the topics. Because then when we start doing the live presentations, we can actually start doing the interaction and start wrestling with the concept. So, you know, Bloom's taxonomy, that's what we're looking for. So I think we have Bloom's taxonomy here. So with recorded ones, I kind of like to make sure too that they're getting the remembering, understanding, and being able to apply. And then when I want to start doing analyzing, evaluating, and creating, I want to get to the live presentations or synchronous presentations. Make sense? All right, so I'm going to get you all another chat activity. What are the advantages and disadvantages of a live online presentation? And if you're a cat owner, I'm going to tell you cats can be your big disadvantage on live online presentations. Because I have cats that like to bat at my microphone, or they're begging the audience for treats, or they're causing some kind of commotion because, you know, they're not getting enough attention and you're talking to someone out there. Right. Live, you can answer. Too many people online with background noise. Right. Ability to interact. Good. Yeah. Exactly. Right. So like right now, you all are listening to this presentation, and until we can, you know, record it and go back and listen to it, but right now you're listening to me live. Perhaps more encouragement to participate from otherwise quiet folk? Yes. If I can do it, and there's some good platforms out there, I like Zoom a lot, you can turn on the video and really encourage your students. And also here at work, we have a rule that on WebEx, we have to have the video on so we can see you, so that we can get people to interact with us. Yes, can be more problematic when the technology stops working. Yes, sir. Today, I was supposed to be doing a Web2X meeting, and apparently our entire database of passwords stopped working, and no one could log in for a while. Yeah, so great time. So when we were supposed to be doing the meeting, no one could log in. Wonderful time. Why did we choose Skype rather than Zoom? That's a question for Craig. That's one of the platforms they prefer, and there's all kinds of different platforms out there. So I don't want to say one's better than the other. They all have their great advantages and disadvantages, but it's really a choice of the organization. So one of the things that we miss when we do live, that we have to kind of simulate, that we have in the live in classroom when we do a live presentation, is the nonverbal communication. So you're all familiar with this. If you've ever trained or done teaching in the classroom, you certainly know what it's like to be in there with people nonverbally interacting. And with some tools, we have to do what I like to call the pseudo nonverbal. So at work here, we use, this is a WebEx, and this is what it would look like, some of the WebEx tools. And other tools have some other things that you can use, like Skype can give you something like the chat here, and I've used some of those kind of emoticons. We can use the emoticons. I think there's a smiley face there. Adobe Connect to this. But each of these tools have some way for people to give you some feedback. So let me kind of point to you right here. You see this little buttons here is right above the button. It says audio, and you have like a hand, an X, a check mark, person running, and a smiley face. We use these a lot in our training to say to people, if you have a question, hit the raise hand button. If you like what I'm saying, or if you agree with something I just said, you can get the green check mark, or we can ask questions. You can say yes, green check mark, no with the X. You can tell me to slow down, speed up. And with the emoticon, you can click on that, and it shows all these different, like, I like this, I don't like this. My favorite is the cup of coffee saying, I'm going to go take a break now. So that's how we can kind of do pseudo nonverbal communication. The thing with you as the presenter is you got to make sure that you still check in with folks and ask them questions and make them feel, because you can listen to me and I can be one of the most dynamic speakers you've ever heard, but your attention's going to wander after a while. In fact, I bet attention's wandering now. Yes or no? Give me a Y or N. Nope, good. Yes. I'm listening. Why? But only because it's Friday. I know. Like I was telling the folks here, I'm the only one on my floor right now. So everyone else took off. We got a little early dismissal today, so kind of nice. So I'm going to get rid of these little transitions. So how do we engage the online audience? Well, my biggest thing is make a contract with the audience. And that's what I did with the beginning. I said, we're going to cover these objectives. And one of the things I say is, did I cover these objectives for you? So I kind of gave you the ending there. But my idea is that today we're going to do this. Today you're going to learn that. I want to focus your attention and say, at the end of this, you should know these things. Okay? And then actually explicitly ask for interaction. Say, and I did this. I said, we're going to have an interactive session today. I want you to interact with me. I'm going to have some questions with you. I regularly poll you. And if we had an opportunity, and I wish we did, I would like to be able to turn on people's microphones and be able to hear people. So I might say, okay, Bailey, I'm just kind of picking on you right there. Okay, you had an interesting question here. Would you mind to tell us a little bit more? And I turn on the microphone for you and let you speak a little bit. This is the reason why, and you may hear this a lot from podcasts and radio shows. When you have one person speaking, no matter the voice, no matter how beautiful the voice is and all that, oh, Bailey's mic is live. Okay, well, Bailey, would you like to say anything? What do you think so far? Okay. I don't see that it's live. Okay, that's fine. That's all right. But that's something we're kind of talking about here. And the whole point, and I think we got the point here. Can't hear Bailey. I know we can't hear him. But we gave it a shot. But the idea here is that we want to hear from different voices. So no matter how beautiful my voice is to you, after about 20, 25 minutes, you're going to get bored with it, and you're going to start tuning it out. This is why in radio shows and podcasts, you have like interview shows where you have 2 or more people speaking. Because once we do a new voice, your brain kind of wakes up again and pays attention again. This is also why I like to switch it up every 10 minutes. So I've been watching the clock here, and about every 8 to 10 minutes, I try to do something new for you. Also, visually mapping the presentation. Remember, we have really 2 senses that are at work here in our online presentation. We have auditory and visual. So I'm going to be talking a lot about this presentation, but I also want to give you a visual map and give you some visual signposting and signaling so that you see where I'm at in the presentation. Okay? And then one of the things I want to do is get you involved. And I think we got someone's microphone open.
Yeah, it's me. It's Bailey. Hi.
Hey, all right.
I just had to turn it on myself.
Oh, it's okay. Cool. So great. So let me ask you a question here then, okay? Because it's perfect timing. How will you use this information tomorrow or next week?
I'm thinking I have to cancel class in a couple of weeks, so I'm thinking about how I might be able to make a video for my students instead of having them just read and post discussion questions like I have in the past.
Yeah, great idea. Or, you can say, okay, make a video for them, and I like the way that is because it gets them in there and engaged, okay, rather than just throwing something for them to read and comment on. Excellent. And I've done that too with some classes. I'll kind of say, well, I'm going to be gone next week, but let me do this real quick video. And honestly, the tools out there are so wonderful. You can do them so quickly. And I'll show some. I know some people ask about, what about some free tools and such that you can quickly record something. It doesn't have to be professional or polished. It just has to be good so they can hear it. And have them talk about that. So when you're gone and you have to cancel class in a couple weeks, we'll say, well, let's don't make this a wasted session. Here, watch this video, and you can bring something from TED, and then give me your video comments about that. Have them put a video together and talk to you about it and share with each other.
Yeah, I like that.
Exactly, yeah. So that's how we kind of work with engaging our audience. So like I said, I have my contract with you. I had these 3 points here I wanted to make, and at the end of this, I'm going to ask you, did I fulfill my part of the bargain? So, do you understand the 3 meta rules that I gave you? And you can see how they work for you, either recorded or live presentations. Did I give you some good tips on recorded presentations? And I give you good tips on live presentations. So if you agree with the contract and I fulfilled it, you can say yes. Or if not, you can say no. Or you can just put a question mark like, I think you need to give me more. Okay. Excellent. Okay. No one's typed no. I'm kind of happy. So you see how we can kind of work with that and get that interaction in, even in a kind of a limited environment that we may have on online world, okay? So these are the 3 objectives. We talked about those. And again, I want to respect your time too, because we're at 40 minutes in. And I want to get some time for some questions and also answer some of the questions you gave me before. But I wanted to make sure that I did reach the objectives for you. It looks like we did. And make you feel a little bit better about how we're going to be working with online meetings, online trainings, both recorded and live. So these are some of the questions that people gave to me. And I'm going to also give you a chance to ask questions too. So while you're thinking about some questions, you can put them in the chat. And I'll talk about a couple of things here that some people gave to me on the spreadsheet before. So let's see. How do you manage technology needs for online meeting presentations of folks that aren't technically savvy? That comes up a lot. And it's really surprising, don't stereotype like, oh, the young folks know exactly how the technology works and the older folks don't. No, I'm amazed sometimes at people that don't really know how to use the technology. So some of the things that you might want to do that I've done before is if it's a learning platform, can you review how we access this recording? Yes, I'll get Craig to talk about that for us, okay? And Pooey said that's a myth. So are you talking about this question here about online presentations with folks that aren't technically savvy? Okay. So the best thing about these is that with almost all the major platforms, you have some tutorials. And I've done this before where I have sent tutorials to people, real quick, short tutorials. I got them on YouTube. And if you're going to do anything kind of tricky. So for example, in WebEx, we use these breakout rooms. And you probably use these in Adobe Connect. And I think Zoom has breakout rooms. And I may send to folks, if you haven't used a breakout room before, here's a quick little tutorial, 2 to 3 minutes, that shows you what we're doing and why it's useful. So I'll try to do that beforehand. It's also very helpful, and this is why it's so great to have Craig here. We have producers, and we can have the producers kind of take people in the chat and help with each other. So like Craig here is going to answer a question for you. I can share at the end of the webinar. So you can have people kind of take someone aside and say, here, let me show you real quick how to work with that. Okay? And now, again, I've also been in there where I've worked with students. I'm the one-man band. And sometimes I'll say, okay, well, who else may be having this problem, and kind of do a quick tutorial there. But I try to build those in as if I can. Now, what are some presentation software options, and when is it best to use each one? That market is exploding. I talked about WebEx. I've talked about WebEx, Adobe Connect, Zoom. We're using Skype right now. There's Google. You can broadcast out of Google, out of Facebook. When is it best to use each one? Really depends on what you're trying to accomplish and how you want to work with it. For example, this Skype here works really well. I think it worked really great here for us. If I have a smaller group of students, like let's say 8 or 9, like I have a monthly or weekly meeting, I'll have the Zoom because I can get people kind of in the video boxes, they can see each other, and it kind of gives us a little bit more interaction there. So you have to really think about, what am I trying to accomplish first, and then which presentation software would best do that for me. So that might be a good resource we can put on the list here for folks, on the listserv and also on the website about presentation software out here. Someone's also, Craig is sharing Haku Deck. So the nice thing is there's lots more stuff out. Are there effective ways to use pre-work or post-work? Yes, I do that all the time. I have them read an article. I have them watch a TED Talk. And I have them come to the class ready to discuss that. So if we have a live session, I'll have them look at something so we can go right into the discussion. And same thing with the recording too, if you want to do it that way. Something before you watch this recording on web pages, take a look at this gallery of web page design and see which ones you like. And then afterwards, let's say we have students that are watching a recorded video. What can I do in post work? Well, like I explained earlier, I can have them go watch a campaign video after they've seen a political theory video on it. I can say, now look at these campaign videos. What do you think about these? Or let's go to the discussion board. I can have them do a discussion posting. Or with my adult learners, I can do a survey afterwards. Or I can convene a group. I've done this before with my supervisors when I've done training. We've watched the recorded video, and then I'll say, okay, next day we'll have a phone conference, and we'll discuss that video. So there's all kinds of different pre-work and post-work that you can do to make the experience better. So with the better live training experience, some pre-reads, afterwards, have some discussions. You can set up a discussion board very easily on the internet. What formats, talking head, voiceover, are most appropriate for different kinds of online presentations? Again, what are you trying to accomplish? And I like to use the Bloom taxonomy again. So if I'm trying to have people remember something or introduce them to something, or I want them to have some content for context, I really like to use my voiceover over my PowerPoint slides. It's really simple to do. It's really easy to work with. Or I'll do a screen recording, like when I do my web pages and how I build those, because I want people to work with and master a topic. Now, when do I want to do the talkover or talking head? Is with presentations when I want people to start questioning things, or I want to have some analysis. So I'm looking at how much interaction engagement do I want from people, and how much input do I want from them. And that helps me determine the format. And how do I engage audiences early in the online session so there's impact even as some participants are just joining in the call? Kind of like we did now. We had a pre-discussion with Craig and myself and Pui, and we had some other folks that came in, and we kind of asked some questions. I like to use polls at the beginning, so as people come in, they can answer a poll. We can have some questions going for them. So there's different ways of kind of helping people come into the party. I don't like doing code starts where I say, okay, top of the hour, let's go, and then go right to the first slide. I like to kind of gently ease us into it. So you saw that and work here. So I have answered these questions. And why I'm doing this, if you have some questions that you'd like to ask me, certainly type them in the chat, or if, I think, Craig, we can have them turn on the mics, right? They just have to click on that little microphone icon so they can talk?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. Okay, great. So I have one great question. What tools are available and free for our use? And I have a copy of this up here, and Craig, if you want to, you can just grab that link and get that as a resource there, but there's all kinds of different stuff. This is just for 2018. And all these different tools here can give you some great options for building great slideshows, okay? I happen to be partial to Microsoft PowerPoint just because I use Microsoft all the time, but I've used Google Slides too. And Powtoon I've been playing with. I am not ready for prime time yet. I'm still trying to learn how that works, but I enjoy that a lot. Okay, great. Taylor has a question. Okay, Taylor, you want to open your mic?
Is it working?
Yeah. I can hear you.
Hello. So my question was, how do you like ease in? Because you're saying it's, ease in, do like some polls or something at the beginning. But how do you do that when you say have like an hour video conference with your class and have quite a bit to get through?
Right. So there's kind of the content. How do we get into that? So you might want to think about some of the content that you have to get through. If you can think of, can I give that as a pre-read? Can I have that as kind of something they can look at beforehand? And then I've done this with my classes, say, okay, so that thing I sent to you to read while we're waiting for everyone to get here, what were some ideas or concepts you caught from that? Or what were some of your reactions to that? So it allows us to kind of have a little discussion before you jump into the content. And make sure you just limit the time, like 3 or 4 minutes. So like I've done this before with my classes. So you read that article about good project management practices. What did you think? Joe, what did you think? Mary, and that helps kind of get the conversation started, okay? And then I say, okay, well, great comments here. So that really works into what we're going to be talking about today, and then I get into my content. Does that help? Oh, I hope it did, Taylor. Helen, do you think there are
Sorry, I was typing. Yes, thank you. That was super helpful.
Okay. Helen, do you think there are differences in good slide design for online presentations versus live? Yes, I do. And let me tell you why. Because, again, I'm going with Ruth Coven Clark's ideas. So with recorded presentations, I'm giving myself more permission to put more content on the slide. Because I'm recording this, and the student is reading this at the same time, and they're viewing it, and they can stop me if they need to take a look at a slide that may be a little complex. And I actually encourage that. Now, in live here, I try to make my slides simple because you guys can't stop me. Well, you can yell at me and say stop, but I want to make this so you can bring this in. So I like the idea of someone put this as kind of highway design. When you see billboards along the highway, you want nice big text. You want to be able to see big pictures so that as we go live, you can see the point I'm making visually while you're listening to me. So that's why I think it works well. And again, it's depending on whether you're recording or you're going live. Okay?
Hey, Bill, what I'm going to do now is we have some callers that are in on mobile, and I noticed that they were giving a lot of feedback. So I'm actually going to just go through them and ask if they have questions just to bring them into the participation. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm going to open the mic for phone number 1419. Actually, it's not letting me unmute them, so maybe I won't be doing that. So sorry about that.
That's okay. So Betty asked a great question. What proportion of your audience is on their desktop versus phone? How can you tell? Well, in many cases, sometimes, and I can tell sometimes, like with Zoom, I can see when someone's on their phone. Sometimes it's very obvious, and I told one student to stop doing this. They were driving and watching me on their phone, so I made them pull over and stop that. But in some cases, the software will tell you that. In other cases, like Craig here, he says we have some folks that are on the mobile phone, and I didn't notice that. And what I can do is, again with the slides, I try to, if we're doing live, that kind of headline. So even if you're on his phone and you got limited screen space, you can still see the slides and at least get the gist of what I'm talking about. Okay. So what proportion? I've noticed it goes, it keeps going up each year. And again, with a lot of these different presentation softwares, they have mobile solutions. I've used them before. I've used Zoom and Adobe Connect Mobile. And if you got a good size phone, it works really well for you. But when you're designing, like this slide here, I'm showing you here what tools are available and free for your use. This would be kind of difficult maybe to see on a mobile phone because there's a lot of stuff here. But what I did is a bunch of screen captures, and of course we can put this up a little bit later, but I would also, for my people on the mobile phone, say, okay, well, I've got an article, Presentation Guru, which was published on January 2017 on the 10th. And it talks about how to get instant feedback from your audience. Has a lot of good tools here. Because one of the questions was, how do I get feedback from my audience? There are tools now that you can use, like Poll Everywhere and Answer Garden. And even if the person couldn't see the slide, I'm talking about it to them and pointing it out. So I hope that's helpful. I mean, it is, as we get more and more devices, it's amazing where people come in from. Like, for example, I I love my Kindle. I got a big Kindle, one of the 10 inches. I do almost everything on the Kindle. And, you know, it's funny when people say, well, how are you, you know, and I can actually go into web conferences and, you know, all this off my Kindle. And it surprises people to say, well, you're reading this off a Kindle? And you can view this on a Kindle? Yeah, once I got a good Wi-Fi connection, I can watch your presentation just as well. Okay. So, wanted to go ahead, and is there any other questions before I turn it over? Because we got about 5 minutes. But I want to turn it over to make sure that Craig and we can, you know, talk about other things that are coming up with NCA. And before I forget, thank you so much. It is such an honor to be the inaugural webinar person. I hope it was well worth it. And like I was telling some folks beforehand, I'm a really big fan of NCA, you know, as an academic. And also, if you had heard of something called the Association for Talent Development, which is kind of the practitioner side of this, I was saying we really need to get NCA Training and Development Division with ATD and start sharing some more information. So what do you find to be the most fun of doing online? Oh, I just like the interaction, and I like talking to people and training. I really love that. I will tell you it's going to be weird. I have done webinars for the Project Management Institute where I've had, and not bragging, nearly 1,000 people online, and you got to imagine their conference system for this, and you're sitting in a room by yourself talking to a blank wall, and I'm not really getting any interaction, or, you know, I don't hear anybody except on the phone, and it can be strange. That's why I end up sometimes just talking to my cats, and they just look at me, you know, and they're my best audience because they either fall asleep or they don't, you know, they just want to know when they're going to get snacks. So when you do webinars like this, and it's just kind of, if you ever done radio, it's like you're, you know, I love the teaching part, but sometimes it can feel a little strange because you're in a room talking to the wall. But, you know, I'm glad to see on the chat that you people are very happy with this. Thank you. So I'm going to turn this back over to Craig and Pui if you want to talk some with these next slides about the upcoming webinars.
So Pui, I'll go ahead and let you talk about the webinars, and then I'll just make a note about where this will be found online.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Bill. This is awesome. I think we got a lot of, you know, a good amount of theory about learning, a lot of practical advice, and quite a few ratings to read further also. So thank you so much, and thank you everyone for attending this first webinar in our Training a Trainer series. So we have 2 more webinars coming up. The first one, the second one after the one after this will be at the end of September, last Friday of September, that is Friday, September 28th. The title is Best Practices for Effective One-on-One Communication Coaching. That is going to be delivered by our past chairs, Dr. Dennis Becker and Robin Golinsky. The last one for this fall is on Friday, October 26th. That's the last Friday of October. And the title is Career Pathways and Options in Workplace or Organizational Communication. That will be delivered by Abby Renner, Jeffrey Stafford, and Deneen Mashamike. Deneen is here also. Hi, Deneen. So those are the 2 webinars that we have. If you're interested, Craig you will let us know, right, Craig, where to?
Yes, I will make a note of where to find this. I'm going to hopefully get this posted to YouTube and also to our Training and Development Facebook page. So that would be the best place to find this series, this webinar, and then future webinars in case you missed them.
Right. Okay. So if you are, I think some of you also sign up for the next 2 seminars. If you want to invite someone or let them know about these 2 webinars, you can take them to the same link that you sign up for this one. That will be really helpful. We really want more people to participate in this webinars that we're offering. So last thing, we invite you to get involved within our division, training and development. There are 3 easy ways you can do. The first one is to join our mailing list. You can see the link up there on the screen. You don't have to be part of our division. You don't have to be a member to receive our newsletters. You, if you want to stay posted on things going on within our division or in the training and development committee, please join our mailing list. You can also join us on our Facebook page, is facebook.com/groups/NCATND. And of course, we want more members also. So if you're already an NCA member, please add us the next time you continue your membership. Please add us as one of your 3 affiliations, or if you already have your 3 affiliations, it's just $5 more to add TND as part of your affiliation. Last but not least, I'd like to thank Craig so much for providing us with this excellent platform. Craig is our co-planner, incoming co-chair for TND, and as you can see, he's our tech guru.
Yes, and I'm glad everybody came, and if anybody wants to give a webinar now that you know how to present online effectively, please reach out to Puey or myself and we will get you on a list of upcoming seminars.
Yes, we'll have Michael there as well.
For sure.
See Michael, our co-secretary, and Michael is saying, and we can link to past webinars in the coming newsletter. Yes, absolutely. Michael is over newsletter. He's our co-secretary. You can get in touch with him if you have anything you want to share with our community also. So that's all I have. Thank you, Bill, again, and thank you everyone for attending.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right. Bye-bye.